Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of the Road to FIDE Master series. This is the episode number 64, as many episodes, as many squares on the chessboard. And in this episode I will cover rounds number 6 and 7, so last two of the Czech Republic Team Championship, in which I have to say I played two games with black pieces against higher rated opponents, so let's see how they went. In the round number 6, I was playing against a junior player rated 2350, so a little bit better than myself, also with FIDE Master title, against whom I've prepared a drawish line. As you can tell from my previous episodes, during day number 1 I won one and only game, then in the day number 2 I drew both, in the day number 3 I lost both, so not an ideal scenario. And as for my team, it was required for me, let's say, and expected to not at least lose the game, so that's why I went for a drawish line with black pieces, and it went like this: e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, so Italian, knight f6, d3, and then d5. A pretty straightforward line in which I am hoping for as many exchanges as possible, equal endgame, half a point, and my team can, breathe happily. After d5, my opponent obviously takes, castle, bishop e7, rook e1. So that's why I'm saying that this line is kind of forcing, because due to the fact that I am playing for a simplifications in the center, I am, put under some pressure. I have to play f6, and then after d4, my positions looks like it's not so great because my king has not castled yet. I am pressured on both central points of mine, but thankfully I have knight b6 move, in which I'm asking the bishop where does he want to go, either here or there. In the game, my opponent decided to go for bishop b5, which is logical way of playing, pinning my knight to the king, putting even more pressure towards the e-pawn. That's why I have to just simply castle and allow my opponent to take on c6 and then on e5, basically sacrificing a pawn for some compensation. But to my surprise, he did not take on c6 first, but he started off with de, and then I'm like, fine, because I can exchange the queens and take on e5 with the knight that normally would have been exchanged already. And after takes, I got myself such position out of the opening in which, as you can tell, I should be equal. Yes, and I have an isolated pawn. At the same time, I might be able to develop rather quickly, and if so, I should not face too many difficulties, so I was more than happy with this exact scenario. On top of that, my opponent played knight c3, which I found inaccurate because it leaves the c2 pawn unprotected and easily attacked with my bishop f5 move. So instead of that, I would say my opponent should have gone for, like, I don't know, maybe bishop e3, maybe something else, but after knight c3, I was over the moon. Bishop f5 is on the board, bishop d3 basically the only choice, and I can take, rook d8, making use of the weak last rank of my opponent king, basically forcing a rook trade either in that scenario that I would be happy with, because after bishop e3 opening up the rook, I have knight c4, hitting there, and my opponent is under some practical pressure. And if that's the case, he might try to play bishop e3, and that I am more than happy with because I can take, play rook d8, let's say force a little bit rook d1 from my opponent perspective, but it doesn't matter. What matters is I have the isolated pawn and I had it from the beginning, but my opponent has one too. So now especially I should not face any problems. And on top of that, instead of simply playing rook d1, allowing knight d5 and perhaps going into such position, my opponent took on b6, so exchanged his bishop, trying to perhaps create some play along the light squares with the knight. However, if you know from the round number 4, queens are cooperating better with the knights, rooks with the bishops when it comes to an endgame. So I felt like, okay, I did not face any difficulties whatsoever. I still have 90 minutes on my clock and the same amount of time I began the game with, and I'm having bishop to add up to my rook. I mean, perfect. So yes, the knight is going to a great outpost on e4, but I, on the other hand, go for the great outpost on d4. So yeah, pretty happy with the scenario that is playing out in the game. As I've said, not in my prep per se, but the position I kind of hope to get. And on top of that, I should be the one now pushing, let's say, for something more than a draw. even though I don't really need it because as we established at the very beginning of the video, my team and I myself would be happy with a draw. Nevertheless, I continue fighting, so I'm hitting the pawn, rook d2 is played, I played b5, I believe that it is an important move. If I don't do it, let's say play a move like this, maybe a4 would be on the board, so that after this pawns are blocking my view on the queen side. Yes, as of now, once more thanks to the weak king, I have the b5 move, but generally speaking, this would be the idea for the opponent, so I decided to cut it straight away and play b5, stop a4, after king f1, king f7, rook c2, hitting the pawn c6. I have a kind of a nice setup in which the pawns are covering the light squares, the bishop is covering the dark squares, so basically all of those squares are more or less taken. This square is also, so the knight really does not have any entry point, and I am happy. My opponent played king e2, I played king e6, inviting my opponent to play there. Then I would reply with king f6. If my opponent is greedy, I am having a king g6 possibility, catching the knight, winning the game. And if he goes back, perhaps I would go back, simply repeating the moves. And on top of that, after this move, I would indeed have this possibility, because after knight h7, I even have rook h8 trying to enter the game through the king side, so it's not working for white either way. For that reason, instead of going for knight g5, he just simply played b3, putting the pawn on the light square and protecting the one that might be attacked. And I did just that, so I played rook a8, h4 happened, h6 stopping the knight g5 indefinitely, h5, and at this point I was a little bit, tiny bit worried that my opponent can create some counterplay on the king side, because as of now I don't have any entry point with my rook. My bishop shoots nowhere. Yes, it's standing nicely, it's blocking plenty of opponent's ideas, but it does not have any clear target, and my opponent has a little bit of a majority on the king side. If we exclude the e-pawn, there is 3 against 2, and since I wanted to draw this game for sure, I really need to figure out how to continue, and I did just that. I started with king d5 to begin with, because there is nothing wrong with this move, and after g4 I had to figure out, is g5 a possibility, or would rather my opponent play through g3 to f5 with the knight, which is yet another great outpost, and if so, I need to react properly, and I found the line of b4, a little bit giving up on the c4 square, but thankfully I have 2 b-pawns, so that after knight g3 I have b5, so once more still I am covering all the squares along the c-file, and on top of that, thanks to the fact that I've pushed both pawns, I cleared the 7th rank, so that after knight f5 I might play rook a7, having under control everything that I need to, which is pawn on g7 and the square on e7. In the game this is not what happened, because my opponent started with king f3. I replied with c5 first, solidifying everything in here, and only after that my opponent played here and I replied with rook a7. And at this point it's really hard for anyone to do anything. I have calculated that g5 might be an option for my opponent, but it should not be really working. I believe that I have prepared king e6 at this time. No, this time it would be the bishop hanging. So no, in here I wanted to take, and only after, okay, if the king goes here, I have bishop c3, cutting away the pressure to the c-pawn, so that if my pawn is taken, I can push e4 and then c4, and for example here, here, and I should be faster than my opponent, because this bishop and this rook covers the g7 pawn, so I am faster. Therefore my opponent has to be, let's say, precise in what he is going to do. Therefore his rook e2 attempt was a nice one, I would say, because it covers the e4 square, so that my pawn push in this variation would not be so powerful. I replied with rook to d7 then, so that if my opponent now goes for the g5, I covered the bishop with the rook, so that I can play king e6 as of now. If he takes, I take with the rook, cutting away the king, and he is the one with more weaknesses on d3, on h5, on g5, and so on, so I am the one taking over the initiative. And if so, at this point he would perhaps have to play king f7, and only now I go rook f7, because if he takes, I have rook f4 check. Oh, sorry, I thought that I had rook f4 check, but obviously there is a check, so I would have to take that way. But still, in this type of endgame, thanks to the fact that rook went away from the c file to e file, there is no way for the rook to enter the game very fast, so that I am happy in here. So here, 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 like I check, and so on, so on. I covered the entry point, and I should be happy with the attack to f pawn or to a pawn, whatever. I'm fine. For those reasons, after knight f5, rook a7, my opponent attempted rook e2, with perhaps preparation for g5. I played rook d7, did not allow him to do so, rook c2, rook a7, just standing, not doing much, knight g5, I gave a check, so that after king g2, I might have, some possibility of, maybe not rook f4, because then the rook would be cut away at some point, but maybe bishop c3 once more, since the king went away from protection of the e4 square. I might have e4 breakthrough in the future, but my opponent went back with the knight, offering a draw, which I happily accepted, because apparently even if I would like to refuse it after rook a7, it's a free-fold repetition. So yeah guys, this is it. Quite a quick draw, even though it lasted over 30 moves. I tried to keep my pace and show the game to you guys rather fast, because this is what I thought about during the game. Not so much. Everything played out itself kind of out of the preparation. So thankfully, both preparation and myself worked together, so that out of having a good position from the opening, thanks to the opening, I did not mess it up, and I got very comfortable draw against high rated player, helping my team a lot. So I was happy with that. And yeah, indeed, I helped a lot, because my team won. We drew our games with black pieces, we won with white pieces, and we were going into the last round with the second place playing team from the first place. So this is it. This is the teaser for you guys for the last round. Let's see it as of now. Okay guys, so as you can tell, I got paired against Grandmaster, finally, unfortunately though with black pieces, and the idea is that we were playing, as I've said, the best team that has won each match so far. As you can tell, we had one draw, so they were the sole leaders, we were the only team with only one draw, so we were on the second place. And yes, with a win, we would be winning a tournament. However, our opponents were crashing through the whole tournament, and on each board they had around 200 or more rating points advantage. So it was, as you can tell, on my board nearly 200 rating points. On the first one it was 100, and then 250, 250, something like this. So our chances of winning the match were really slim. And the payout structure made it hard for our team, in a sense that if we lose such match, and there is a high probability of that, we would be like kicked out of the top 10, I believe, because as you remember, 168 teams took participation in this tournament. Such a loss would mean such a big drop in the standing list. For those reasons, we had, the team talk before the game, and we have decided that a draw in that match would be more than enough for us to be happy about our team result overall, and taking into account the probability of the loss and a win in this match, we agreed that, well, win is not that probable. We decided, okay, let's do the draw offer altogether. So it was not like pre-arranged or anything. We just, as a team, decided that our opponent might expect us to fight for it all, for the glory, and expect a tough match and so on. We will trick them into thinking that, and then we'll just try to offer a draw individually at each board and see how will they react. So the game went like this: knight f3, d5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, e6. I offer a draw, and the same exact words came from the mouth of all of our teammates, from all of my team. And at first the opponents were a little bit shocked, and then they talked about it as a team. They went away from the chessboards to navigate and discuss our draw offers on each board individually, and they said, listen, we are winning the tournament, so let's agree to it. So funnily enough, after 3 moves, all the boards on the board number 1, team board number 1, were drawn, and I couldn't be any happier, to be honest, because as you watched the videos from this tournament, I was playing terribly against, especially in the previous episodes. So the fact that I was able to draw a game so fast, so effortless against a Grandmaster and gain at least like 3 rating points, it was a blessing really for me. And on top of that, we had free afternoon, and on top of that, we got third place, so I mean, cannot complain about it at all. So let's go straight into the outro section. As you can tell, our team placed third in the tournament that consisted of 168 teams. So amazing result, one of the best from the Polish teams in the Czech Republic Team Championship ever. I myself was the worst player of all, because as you can tell, I lost 17 rating points while all of my players, all of my colleagues were gaining rating. And as you can tell on the board number 3, amazing result, 6 out of 6 wins and only a draw in the last round. Rating performance of grandmaster level. So this was the guy, Jakub, who carried the boat, carried the team, and allowed us to have such a great result. And obviously boards number 1 and 4 also gave their best. I didn't, but thankfully it was still enough to place in the top 3. As of the results of the whole tournament, as you can tell, we were the highest rated Polish team. As expected, in the top 10 we are actually the only team from Poland, so we're happy with that. And yeah, we just drew against the best team, so the number 1, and we drew against the team Frydek Mistek Veterani, placed on the place number 6. We actually won against the second team, but they were better in the second tiebreak, which were the small points overall. So yeah, amazing tournament, a very tough one in terms of the pairings, in terms of the team results, and also my individual ones. Plenty of lessons to be taken. I hope to bounce back, because it's second or third tournament in a row where I really struggle a lot to improve my play, to improve my rating, and so on. So in this one specifically, plenty of lessons to be taken about the motivation, about the preparation, about the stamina, calculation. I mean, a lot. So for the next few weeks, I hope to take a little bit of a break from chess. In the end, it's summer holidays, and I also have some vacations from work. Then slowly I will be getting back into training. So hopefully, and in the September or later, I will be back to playing, and hopefully on the higher level. With that, thank you all for watching this episode, this tournament, the whole Road to FIDE Masters series. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to not miss out when I will come back with another tournament in some time for you guys. So as of now, thank you all for watching. We'll see each other. Bye bye.